Hey friend, Rob Phoenix, Power Guy here. Hope you're all doing well. Today I want to talk about the commonalities amongst traditional American folk magic traditions, particularly like on the eastern coast, I guess you could say, of the United States, mostly. But anyway, I want to start with that because our folk traditions, as I've said many times in previous videos, we're all kind of doing the same thing. It's just colored by our specific culture and those cultural beliefs that we bring into it. So, for example, when I'm talking about traditional American folk magic traditions, I'm talking about Braucherei. I'm talking about Appalachian Granny Magic Conjure, Hoodoo, Santeria, Corandero, Brujeria, uh, Spiritism, or Spiritism, that sort of thing. So, one of the things we all have in common is our Christianity foundation of the practice. Now, that's so, therefore, we all use the Bible. Uh, but that changes by culture, obviously. Like here in Pennsylvania, Dutch culture, uh, powwowing has largely been more of kind of a Protestant practice, although there have been obviously some Catholic practitioners of it, and also Mennonite and Amish, whether they want to admit that or not. But the underlying commonality was Christianity, and also along with that, here in Pennsylvania goes along a lot of our folk beliefs. Because again, this is folk religion, this is folk Christianity. These are folk traditions, and so they're colored by the specific people that are doing them. And so some people may have had beliefs about certain nature spirits and such. And as we've seen in a previous video some time ago, Pennsylvania German culture does have its own share of like folk beliefs, like the like fairies and such, that kind, that kind of thing. Also, our folk magic is colored by some of us believe in saints, and some don't necessarily have that same belief. And saint veneration was done in Catholicism primarily, but like in the German Reformed Church, some of that was carried over and brought in to help the people make the transition easier. Um, so that might be a part of the folk religion and folk practice of Braucherei. So one of the things like we all have like is the use of the Bible, and within that, like the Bible, just by reading various passages from the Bible could be considered a charm or a spell to achieve some sort of end, and this is true across all those folk traditions that I mentioned. Also, the Psalms are a very kind of popular, powerful method of magic across all of those traditions in American folk magic. So the Bible, and with that goes Jesus, and some people might call on Moses, thinking that, seeing him as the first hoodoo doctor, or Jesus as the first powwower. It is what it is. So this is like really the main thing that all traditional American folk magic traditions have in common. Another thing might be the use of candles. Like here, this is kind of like an honorable mention because Braucherei in and of itself is not really candle heavy. It's not really candle intensive. General powwow healing, certainly not. Hexameister work, maybe. Or I'll just say yes for Hexameister work. But you'll find candles used a lot less in Pennsylvania German folk magic than you would in, say, like Hoodoo or Santeria or whatever, Corandero, because they burn a lot of candles and they have vast altars and such. So let's talk about altars. An altar is not something that you will find for a powwower or browker or even a hexenmeister. I mean, we just don't have altars. We might have a space where we work. Like, for example, I have a work table in my greenhouse. Certainly it's not an altar by any stretch of the imagination, but if I'm working out there, that's just kind of where I work. So whether that's with general planting and such or whatever, but I've also made rock bags out there and such. So, but that's just a work table. If your religion, your folk religious practice requires that you use an altar, then use an altar. Another thing that we all kind of have in common is the veneration of saints. For everybody that's different though, like, and these are popular candles for saints, so I just use this for demonstrative purposes only. I don't do a lot of saint work because I just don't. I don't know. I just don't. But it's there as an option if I choose to go down that path. Besides that, let me put this here. Another thing is like symbols and talismans and such. Now, Pennsylvania Dutch country, we're famous for our hex signs. So you might see modern day brokers using hex signs in their work. Obviously, they were created for tourists, but they were given talismanic meanings. We like them. We use them. So you may see your local broker using hex signs. With that also is talismans, like the Key of Solomon. I have a little pouch full of metal talismans. I'll try and show them, some of them to you. These are just the talismans of Solomon. These were all created by somebody. They're all engraved in metal, and I use these for various purposes, but you can draw them yourself. Also, like the Sator charm, that's pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? Like ubiquitous. Yeah, it's just kind of everywhere. Another thought too is a head covering. Now, sometimes I do think it's important for a powwower to wear a hat. I have a hat there. I have one up here. I have other just different kinds of like newsboy caps that I wear and such. I have fedora. You know, like there are various hats that I use depending on what I'm doing magically, because sometimes a head covering is what's required. And you'll find that is common in other folk magic traditions, head coverings of some sort. Another thing is pouches. In here we make what's called brocca bags, but they can also, I've seen them called conjure bags, mojo bags, gree bags. You know, the contents might be a little different here than what you're used to somewhere else, but the idea is the same. It's basically a pouch. Now, I tend to draw symbols and such on the outside, this various symbology, filled with usually handwritten prayers. On occasion, there might be a spice in here or an herb, that sort of thing. You could put a talisman in here. I mean, it's whatever you do, but that's kind of a commonality you'll find. Also, the use of jars, especially something called a witch's jar or a witch's bottle. It's usually a sealable glass container that you fill with sharp objects like rusty sharp nails, bits of broken mirror. Put something in there of yours, like some of your skin, some of your hair, or urine or semen or blood. The idea is, and then also some like vinegar you can put in here. The idea is that if somebody's going to work some sort of nefarious magic against you, the magic is attracted to this because it has like a bit of your essence in there, and then it gets all ripped apart and returned to sender by all the sharpness in the mirror and such. And these are generally hidden somewhere on your property, not to be disturbed. That's pretty common amongst like all folk magic traditions all over the world. I think they have variations of this. Another thing that is like herbs and plant material and such. Not so much here in Pennsylvania German folk magic, but we do use some Just some, but largely my use of herbs and plants and botanicals is for medicinal work. I mean, I do use some for various, like for their spiritual properties, but not as much as like some other traditions might do. Um, and finally, I want to talk about something that is pretty popular amongst like all folk traditions, even some of the newer things like modern witchery and such. They've been doing this too. It's something called Florida water. Florida water gets its name um, because it's floral and it's yeah, I guess it was kind of named after like what am I trying to say? The Fountain of Youth in Florida, the supposed Fountain of Youth. It really, previously, it was just called Eau de Cologne, and it came from Europe. And it was given that French name Eau de Cologne. It was like a gender neutral cologne that men or women could wear. And it has, well, the original, I guess, formula was a lot more citrus. So it was kind of like citrus water, and it was just like a nice, pleasant fragrance. And this was created back during a time when, like, things weren't clean and the world smelled bad, and so they thought diseases were carried by bad smells, and so they would use stuff like this to, maybe like wet a handkerchief or something just so they could have something pleasant to smell. Um, but here in the United States, it became picked up by traditional folk magicians, and now one of the largest suppliers is just like New Jersey, New York. It still says Murray and Landman, but it's actually Landman and Kemp dash Barkley and Company. Um, Used as a cologne, you can splash it on. It does have a citrusy scent to it, but it's my understanding that the American version, which is what this is, not only is it a different color, it's like a greenish, but it's a little more alcohol based and a little less natural than it once was. So it's not quite as citrusy. It's still there, but it smells pretty alcohol. You cannot drink it. It is made with fragrances and such, so it's probably not even natural. Um, and then there's another version that has pretty much the same label and such from Peru, and that's like a yellow color, and that's a little more citrusy scent, a little less alcohol content. Uh, I watched a video of a young lady making her own, and she had all the botanicals and spices and uh, like citrus fruits and such that she made hers, and she used clear vodka. But one of the things she did add was some patchouli uh, essential oil. So yeah, you definitely don't want to drink it, no matter where you get it or whatever. Just don't drink it. It's not to drink. It's really for fragrance. However, spiritually, it has become used to appease spirits. Um, I I was watching a brujo talk about how he uses it in his ceremonies when he's calling on the archangels of the directions, and he like opens it and you know blows some of it towards the direction as like a welcoming to that archangel, something nice to smell to draw them in. But he also uses it to like cleanse things of like negative vibes, I guess. So that was really cool. I remember in the 90s when magic was just all the rage and all this Wicca and witchcraft stuff was going around. Everybody was just like splashing this everywhere. It was just like the world reeked of Florida water for a couple of years. Um, Honestly, it kind of gives me a little bit of a headache, and that to me says it's using a lot of like fake fragrances. The ingredients say alcohol, denatured, water, fragrances, FD&C blue color number 1 and FD&C yellow color number 5. That doesn't sound very natural. But the lady that I watched making it, I mean, she had lavender and like fresh lavender and well dried, and she had rose petals, and she had bergamot and cinnamon, and she added Palo Santo to it. She had orange and lemon and lime peels and whatever else she had, and she added to the vodka. it actually looked really like refreshing, like you could just drink it. But then she added that patchouli oil, and that's the deal breaker. But anyway, so yeah, Florida water, you can splash it about to cleanse and banish negativity. You can wear it as sort of a protection or to bring blessings like money and luck and prosperity if you wish. I don't use it for all that. However, I do like that one guy's use as sort of a like a gift to the archangels. So I may think about that. I really like that idea. I do like the smell of it, but yeah, I don't know. Kind of almost smells like soap. Anyway, so that's that. Those are the pretty much the baseline commonalities. And again, we're all using the same stuff. We're all doing very similar things, but these things are colored by our personal upbringing, the culture we come from, ancestral spirits, that sort of thing. So hopefully this was educational, interesting. There you go. Hope everybody had a great weekend. It's back to work tomorrow. Back to school. I know, I get it. But that's it. If anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them down below. Subscribe, link, like, thumbs up, all that YouTube-y stuff. And that's it. God bless you guys. Love you all very much. And we'll talk again really soon.